one of the things I've been most affected by from college days on, especially in the early days, was I didn't know it, but was on the lookout for people who brought together what felt like opposites. He's called, there's a little booklet called Romantic Rationalist.
Mm-hmm.
Romantic not meaning fall in love easy, but that you have a remarkably imaginative way of seeing the world, the affections matter, beauty matters, people and relationships matter, and over here is this unbelievably razor sharp logic. And when I saw that, there's very few people who put that together.
Right.
So the question, I suppose, would be, how does that happen? First, do you see him that way, and how does a person like that come into being, or how does he hold the two together? Because most people feel them as opposites. Like, if I'm going to be rational,
Yes.
I'm going to be impersonal.
That's the hardest question you've asked me. I think it probably had to do with the way Lewis was educated and the way a lot of the people in his day and time were educated in place. On the one hand, he had his mentor, his tutor, the great Knock, Kilpatrick, who you can read about in that one fascinating chapter in Surprised by Joy,
Right.
where he shows how Kilpatrick just made him back up everything he said.
Yeah.
You know, wasn't it on the way?
Yes.
He picked him up from the
You
railroad.
got the same story in mind I did.
Right, and he says on the way, he says, "Oh, I love the country," or something. It's a
Why'd you say
wild.
that?
I think it was wild country, or
Yeah,
and
something
he
like
says,
that.
"Well, how do you define wild?" And why would you say that? And back up.
Yeah.
So he
and
was,
you have no right to have an opinion
right
yet.
He was forced to always have a reason for everything he said.
Right.
He was forced to. He learned how to debate. So he was rational,
Yeah.
but it was very clear he was a poet. He wanted to be a
Yeah,
poet. He
yeah.
turned out not to be a
So
great
that
poet.
didn't kill him. I mean, it didn't
No,
kill
it didn't
his
kill,
imagination.
It didn't kill it at all. It just put them together.
Right.
It put them together.
So is there a way we can help that happen? I mean, I really would like people to be like that.
It is remarkable because on the one hand, when you read Mere Christianity, which I know is not necessarily the first book I give to somebody, it's demanding now, I think, for the average person today who is used to images and has a short attention span. And yet, on the one hand, it's, as I mentioned, it's just filled with pictures, more pictures than I fill a book with. And yet, there's lots of long trains of reasoning, very, very sharp reasoning. He puts it together. It is. Can we learn to do that? I guess maybe we have to. In our churches, I suppose, if we preach that way, John, that would be probably the best thing that you and I can do, is to combine the two ourselves.
Another juxtaposition. I saw a list of books that you read impactful in college and seminary.
Yeah.
The college tend to be Lewis, I think,
Yeah.
to correct this if it's wrong. And then there's a big reform cluster, Packer, Sproul, and others.
Right.
How does Lewis and this feeder group from Reform historic Puritan roots fit together? Because Lewis
interesting.
didn't look upon Puritanism.
No, he didn't like it.
But he had a respect for it.
He did.
In the sense that he knew it wasn't what people said it was. It wasn't just negative.
Right.
But it was very God-centered, and his teacher, MacDonald, had no time for Calvinism whatsoever.
Right.
So you didn't go that direction. You didn't follow MacDonald, Lewis saying he's great, into anti-Calvinism or anti-reform. You had these other guys, so how'd they come together?
That's a good question. Predestination.
And God used what other means?
Well, I mean, actually, you're asking now I don't want to set myself up as being either as rationally smart or as imaginative as Lewis. But that's what happened to me. What happened was in college, I came into a more imaginative kind of Christianity because of Lewis.
Yeah.
I loved it. When I went off to seminary, I came under the influence of a couple teachers that convinced me, a little bit against my preferences, that Reformed Christianity was true. When I got into Reformed Christianity, I found that it was probably the most rational and demanding, logically demanding of the various traditions I could see. And I think that's what brought it together. I loved Calvinism eventually, and loved the rigor of its systematic thinking. But I never lost my love for Lewis and the other people, many of whom don't like Calvinism at all. Still to this day, there's other They don't like it for that very reason, but for
Right.
some reason I've liked it, and I think it's helped, I think it's enriched my ability to minister.